Hello and welcome. I'm your host, Avantika Kansal, and you are tuned into The Global Lens by Avantika, your window to the world through insightful storytelling and compelling narratives. This show would try to offer diverse perspectives when it comes to history, global history, war and crime, politics, geopolitics, and policies, and most importantly, lives around it. So, for today's discussion, we have a guest with us. Our guest for today is Ekta Prakash. Ekta Prakash is a seasoned leader and change maker with over 12 years of experience driving strategic programs in the non-profit and human rights sectors. She is currently the co-founder, director, and CEO of Humanizing Lives, a not-for-profit organization which is dedicated to reshaping human rights and mental health care, advocacy, and action, focusing on the mental and emotional well being of marginalized groups, including youth, those in the prison system, and women in conflict zones such as Afghanistan. Ekta has gathered many feathers in her hat with a legal background. She has worked with several organizations such as UNODC, Institute of Social Sciences, National Commission for Women, National Human Rights Commission of India, Gracia Rena Foundation, before starting her own venture. Not only that, she is also a producer, having produced a film on martyr rights that was selected and screened at Cannes Film Festival in 2011, and also won several awards in the category of Best Short Film at multiple national and international film festivals. I welcome you, Ekta, to the show. I'm truly honored to have you here.
Thank you, Avantika, and it's so nice to see you again.
Yeah, likewise. Last time we had an amazing discussion on the women reservation bill. So, Ekta, with your background in international criminal justice and human rights from UK, I'm sure you have studied war crimes and terrorism. What's your perspective on the ongoing global conflicts and human rights issues?
Um, it's a. I mean, if you want to answer, you want me to answer this is there's too many things involved in this, but currently I feel it's the ongoing power struggle between the failed diplomacy of and both the countries. If you see, I don't see any of the countries who's politically very stable, and I'm always against the war. I know the country has to take care of the political system, the border, everything related to it. But I feel that when it comes to war, it's mainly the civilians who are affected, kids who are affected, mainly the kids. Trust me, mainly the kids who are affected, and it does not come up with any solution. It just stops. It starts and stops. There's no solution. Once you're done with your arms, you're done with you think, okay, the other country starts affecting, then you stop the war. You don't, I don't think so there's any accountability. People who have really affected and have done something are taken into accountability or something happens but it only takes life and adds trauma for next generation to be all prepared, to be the next terrorist. It's a vicious circle if you understand. You human right violation, then it's radicalization, then it's revenge and everything. It just goes on and on and on. That's what war does every time. And the conflict, it's an ongoing conflict because of war. So this is what I understand. And when your youth grows up in a war-torn environment with the laws, oppression, and no justice even after they grow up. So it all leads to radicalization. It's not basically about ideology alone. It's also about pain seeking purpose, कि when जब मैं बड़ा होऊंगा तुम्हारे साथ क्या हुआ था. So war and just gives opportunity to the larger terrorism. It doesn't stop terrorism.
Yeah, so it's an endless loop, endless cycle. For an example, if we take example of the Jewish Holocaust, which happened around World War II. Now that Jewish Holocaust eventually translated into Jews going back and claiming their original land. which made Arabs lose their land. And it's a still a conflict which is going on. So the cycle is still there. In fact, it got even more intensified around October 7th, 2023. Or that's what we got to know, because apparently it is also said that the internal conflict was always going on. It was just a very big attack which happened. But by any chance, did you happen to come across such kind of people from these territories internationally?
So, I've traveled so much, and because of my studies, I have interacted with a lot of people. Eventually, it's the civilians who are affected, and they really don't want any kind of war. It's just the main heads of the nation, it's the power play. This is what I feel, who needs war. And people who come and attack are never caught. Hardly they're caught, or hardly anything happens to them, their family, or anything. And like recently, we also had a trauma support for Afghan women who, what's going on after the new regime started of Taliban. So they are also, they've seen, those women have also seen war. They were there in the therapy room with us. They were there in the trauma support group. And how life changes, how things changes, it's you. I mean, people we sitting in our bedroom or TV room, we can't understand. For us, it's just like India-Pakistan cricket match, But war is not that. War is some other level thing. I mean, you have to. I mean, recently I saw a video, where a kid in Gaza is dancing on the noise of drone. Can you imagine? Like, I mean, it was. I was
Yeah.
just stunned. Like, these are the kids. He's just trying to find a moment in that. Also, you never know what if that drone attacks and kills him. But he's dancing to the sound of drone. So yeah, you're right. I mean, it's just going to increase, and with digitalization and with expansion of technology, you think it's going to stop? It's going to be even worse.
Having said that, Ekta, you mentioned about the Afghan women, and you have witnessed, you have helped them 30 group of a group of 30 women, if I'm not wrong. So would you
15, sorry.
like to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, yeah, sure.
How
And
was your
Afghan.
experience? And this is after 2021, right? After Taliban
Yes,
took
yes,
over.
yes, yes. Yeah, after the Taliban return, it was a beautiful experience. Trust me. And we launched this program called Empower and Empathy for these women. And program was offering culturally very sensitive mental health support to these Afghanistan women. We also had a translator, because language plays a very big part in emotional healing. You need to. So at the time when these women were like literally erased from public life, and there were few years back these women were also allowed to run for presidentship. They were doing their PhDs, they were going to colleges, wearing their favorite clothes, and now they're technically outrightly erased from the public life. They can't make decisions, they can't even go out and buy groceries. So when we were talking to these women were like literally, first day of session, they came with the degrees to us. They were showing the degrees. This is what I have done, this is what I have done, and I feel so hopeless, I feel so, and they all, we could, in like, in fifth to sixth session, my psychologist told me that, they all are going through major PTSD, post-traumatic trauma disorder, and then we were like, what should we do? And then they like, what they observed, they just want to do something, even a free course they were ready to do. Even while we were doing a trauma support, they were telling us, can you give us a certificate? So they were getting hyper independent in their homes, they were doing something or other in their house because they feel so hopeless. There was so much of void in them. They were so scared that what are we going to do? And in just that fear of what are we going to do, they were landing up to do anything and everything. They were asking us also, okay, can we do a free course with you? You know, so it was a lot of hopelessness we saw, and then after a session of 3 months, there were a lot of changes. They could find support in each other. They were also exchanging each other's numbers. Though they said it's not easy for us to even make calls. Even how we doing this over the internet is very challenging for us. Sometimes network is not there, or even if somebody gets to know that with such kind of trauma support or health support is being provided to us, we have an exposure outside. So this might be another problem for us, but they were very strong enough to accept the offer and do it. And I mean, they're trying their best, but the situation is same.
Yeah.
But they
So
do
do
write
you?
us sometimes, and we reply them.
Yeah. So, considering they are not allowed to work, they are not even allowed to go out at all, is it? They can't
Yeah,
even go
yeah,
to the market, nothing.
nothing, nothing.
So they can only be in their homes. That's it.
Yeah, yeah, and there were a lot of cases where the degrees were burned by their own parents, not because they were against, because they were so scared just to save their daughters. You know, to save their daughters, they burned the degrees. You're not doing anything. You're not going anywhere. Also, there were set of parents who were trying their best. Ki you migrate, you go somewhere, go settle in another country. So fear plays different roles in the different families.
Yeah. And how about them going, I mean, trying to go and settle in some other country? Is that also possible for them?
I mean, if there is hope, anything is possible. I don't. They are trying, and we really push them. Yeah, because a lot of them have a lot of families. You know, if you see Europe side, there's a lot of Islamic domination there. There are a lot of Afghanistan people there. Even if you see UK, there are a lot of Afghanistani people are there. The families are there. So sometimes they support each other. They call, but of course, it's not that easy to take that flight and fly. But yeah, I mean, they can be hopeful. Yeah.
Yeah. So hope is something which can take a person long way.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, hope our support group must have made them so hopeful and so strong that they keep trying and trying till they succeed.
Yeah. So, how do you think human rights violations and the trauma of war contribute to the rise of terrorism, especially amongst the younger generation, the now generation? And considering we are seeing a lot of wars happening currently.
It's very simple, Avantika. When the child is going through that entire war-torn environment, seeing losses, seeing bodies piled up, and there's no justice to it. The food is being stopped. The new way of war is starvation. You know that, right? It's more than the arms and ammunition. It's the starvation. That's how they're fighting. It happened in Gaza also. And when you see kids are watching all this at such a tender age, where they're supposed to go to school or they're supposed to play with their toys, they are just playing around the bodies. They don't know what's happening. They're seeing their parents die, they're seeing their friends, and it's something a very common thing for them. So, like I said before, also, it's just not the matter of ideology that becomes that we have to fight or we have to attack someone. It's all becomes very pain-seeking purpose, that this is what happened with me. And the trauma remains till generations because that's what storytelling does. Like, तुम्हें पता है मेरे साथ क्या हुआ था, तुम्हें पता है हमारे दादाजी के साथ क्या हुआ था, तुम्हें पता है हमारी माँ के मम्मी के साथ क्या हुआ था. So the story goes on, the trauma goes on, and these things, and you also become very insensitive to all these things because you're growing into that environment. And it's growing onto your skin. So yeah, it's purely, I feel, it's pain-seeking purpose which develops into a terrorism, and you become a terrorist.
So these kids basically become very insensitive. Actually, sometimes they themselves become militants or terrorists. I mean, they are generally terrorists, but they would always call themselves militants. That
Oh
also
yeah, yeah,
happens.
of course, of course, of course, of course. But it also depends. Like you have two kids in one family, one might become an IPS officer. Oh, this is what happened. No, I will not let it happen to anyone else. Other might become a very revengeful gangster. अच्छा मेरे साथ हुआ है, मैं सबके साथ करूँगा. So it all depends situation to situation. But then yeah, war is some. I have. You can't even think what happens to them. The mothers are raped in front of them, the food, the starvation. There's so many ways of doing a war. It's just not that what we see in the movies, border-like movies that ki gun chala diya or top chala diya. It's not war. There's a different layer to war. Different thing happens on the ground. Thankfully, we are a very peace-loving nation, so we
Yeah.
are not into such kind of war. We only give warnings like we did in our Sindoor operation. But if you see other wars like Gaza, Palestine, it's ruthless. It's not human. It's just not.
Not just that, in fact, India has also seen partition in 1947. In fact, these days I'm doing a little bit work around minorities in Bangladesh. And
Hmm.
that is how I was reading about everything from 1905, from Swadeshi movement, when they were so united, to how the partition happened and the Calcutta riots and then the New Khali riots and all that happened. That is also war in itself. Though
Of
they are
course.
termed as riots, but they were also war. I mean, literally families were ripped apart, they had to change their religion, they had to flee the borders. In fact, that's when the borders were also marked.
Yeah. I
Ekta,
just feel that
sorry.
we really need a stronger international cooperation and a justice system which is still lacking. There's a lot of gap country to country, and to make sure there's like if anybody commits a serious crime, war crime is held responsible, which is not happening. We just compromise after a certain period of time. Let's not do this. Okay, let's just stop it. Uh, there has to be a really strong international cooperation and law to stop all this. Which I
Yeah, absolutely. So there need to be one body. Apparently, UN is supposed to take on that role, but there needs to be some body which basically says that there is going to be no war, no matter what happens.
Yeah, I mean, eventually UN also know how it's governed, by whom it's governed, and what's the UN dependency of UN. We all know this.
Yeah, exactly. So everyone is tied.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
Ekta, now coming to the next question, which is about your recent current venture, Humanizing Lives. Tell us more about it. Tell us how you have been able to help lives, how you have been able to, probably make an impact in their lives. And what were, like you mentioned about the group of Afghan women. Tell us more about such people that you have come across.
Okay, humanizing lives happen out of pure emotions for me. So none of us working. Everybody was home in the first phase of pandemic and into the lockdown. And I am considered to be the confession box of most of my friends. They say I'm a good listener, so they usually call, and not just friends, even the colleagues. So a lot of people were calling me and discussing their issues, and everybody was having some or other problem because in India, it's not very easy to stay with your family, your siblings all the time in one house. There were a lot of people working, came back home. There were a lot of kids studying, they came back home, and everybody was staying together. So I just realized that everybody is too anxious. Some of them are going through a lot of anxiety. Some of them are developing kind of functional depression. They're depressed, but they don't know. But they feel we're working, we're doing everything. No, no, it's not depression. I'm just sad. So I called one of my very close friends, Sushri, who's a backbone of Humanizing Lives. So I asked if we can. I said, I have this idea, and I want to start a pro bono psychotherapy but anyone and everyone till the first phase of pandemic and assuming there's so much of unemployment and there's no jobs and everything, I don't want to charge any fee. It has to be purely pro bono. Can you do this for me and can you arrange a team for me? So we arranged a team of around like 8, 9 psychologists and we just started on Instagram, with this Google form and on LinkedIn and asked few friends to share. And we had like in 2, 3 months we have like 5,000 plus registration.
Wow.
Yeah, and people started seeking therapy pro bono, and then eventually, when the first phase of pandemic happened, and till the second phase of pandemic, we were giving pro bono psychotherapy. But then I realized that it started with emotion. We thought we'll keep it only for a few months, but it's going really big. It means there's a huge gap in mental health, and people really want to seek help and support. It's just that it's not very accessible and affordable. So what we thought that even there has to be certain accountability to that therapy also, and also because the organization needs to be sustainable. My therapists needs to be paid because they're working so much. We converted the pro bono into affordable therapy of 500 rupees per session, which is still a very peanut price if you consider therapy outside.
Yeah,
Therapy is very
in India,
expensive.
I think it's much more expensive.
Yeah. So that's how it all started, and we're going good. We're going great. We are there to support for the mental health. It's affordable. It's accessible. You can do your therapy in your bedroom, in your car, on Zoom, Google Meet, wherever you are, even while you're traveling. And a few other things we started was like one. I'll share a story with you if you have time. There was a 17-year-old boy who texted me on my Instagram that. I think I am a gay because, and I realized that after watching Ayushmann Khurrana's movie, Badhaio Badhai, or some movie, I don't remember the movie's name, but it was Ayushmann Khurrana's movie. And he said, I wrote a letter to my maths teacher and I was beaten badly in the school. And even my maths teacher complained to my parents, and I'm very scared. Is it a disease? Is it something wrong? I'm very scared. And he came from Kota, Rajasthan, small village. And he's like, I'm very scared. So I asked one of my queer therapists, can you take up this case on Instagram and discuss what is the problem? So we asked, you're not 18, we really can't do this with you. He's like, okay, luckily I'm getting 18 next month. So I was like, okay, submit your Aadhaar card to us. So he submitted his Aadhaar card. So we started talking to him the next month, not the month he approached us. And in a span of 3-4 months, my psychologist was able to talk to him nicely, was able to talk to the parents accepted him, because even they thought कि ये सब ऐसी मूवी मसाला है, बच्चे करते हैं सब ऐसा गलत है या बीमार है. But it was pure acceptance, pure love in the family, even coming from such a small village. And then after that, we started a queer therapy also, queer support group also. We have a very strong community of queer people who work with us, who are there for us, and who seek therapy from us. There are also a lot of people, like we have one of our very amazing boy called Priyanjul. He's a volunteer for us. He looks into all the cases. If there is any empathy or sympathy needed for queer people, he's there, available on phone, Zoom, everything. Because a lot of time people think we have same people from same community, it's much easier to talk to them. So we trained Priyanjul for 6 months, what therapy means, what counseling means, what talking means. And he's been doing a great work with us. So that's how the journey started for everyone around.
Nice. So one very intriguing thing with this is intriguing for me. So I read that your company has done rehabilitation of 10 prisoners who were ex-offenders and inmates. So what was this entire scenario like? Can you tell us a little
So
bit about it?
yeah. So basically, my work consists. I have a 6-7 years of experience after coming from UK. I started working in the National Human Rights Commission, and I was looking into prison reforms. And I have a very close connection with prisons, because I used to visit a lot of prisons, and it's still very core for me. It's a very important work for me, which I'll be doing it forever. So when I started humanizing, I started combining social justice and mental health, which is a very important part, I feel, and a lot of us miss it. Because I feel nobody is a born criminal, you are a byproduct of your environment. So every time I used to visit prison and I used to talk to the female prisoners or a male prisoners, everybody used to have a backdrop or a story, why this happened, how this happened, and where is it coming from. Now all they realized, they all are carrying certain baggages or a certain kind of remorse because of which they commit this crime. And that's where I introduced, I got in touch with Dr. Rukni. She's been my mentor and she's a director to Correctional Academy of Chandigarh. And I said, ma'am, I really want to work with these prisoners and I feel it's a home for me. Let you allow me, let me do this. So that's how we started conducting a support group for prisoners, and we also started connecting support group for prison officers, because they are equally, going through a lot, because it's not easy to be inside prison with those prisoners, discipline them. You lose your mind. I mean, if I give you 10 kids who are just some other level, criminal minded, psychotic, it's so difficult to deal with them. So we started doing with prison officers, prisoners, support groups, and all. We started doing suicide prevention. And after that, Kiran Bedi's organization approached me, They said, we have this 10 prisoners and they're going to be released very soon. Would you be interested in doing a rehabilitation program for them? Because eventually all the prisoners are going to rehabilitated in the society. And if they're not corrected mentally, emotionally, or every aspect, they're going to rebound into a crime because, they're stigmatized. They're coming from prison. Nobody gives them work. It's like तुमने crime किया है, तुम एक बार चोरी किया है तो बार बार चोरी करोगे. That we always have this thought process कि हम दोबारा नहीं रखते. So that we took that project. We worked for them for around like 3-4 months. We allotted 2 psychologists to one prisoner, and it was a beautiful journey. Most of them were rehabilitated. Somebody started as a teaching job. Somebody started a farming job. And there was this girl who was also dealing with a lot of issue with her lawyer who was blackmailing her. We sorted that also because I come from a law background. So we did help her with the legal aid. So there was a lot of changes, a lot of improvement, and a lot of smiles added to the entire program. So yeah, I mean, because I have worked so much with prisoners, it was one of my very important projects.
So when it comes to prisoners, I have always, perceived them as someone who is different from rest of the society. I mean, I would hesitate to talk to them probably if I know that, they have committed such a crime which was for which they had to go to prison and all those things. So, are they any different from the regular people in terms of their behavior or in terms of, regular people approaching them? Is their behavior different? Maybe they are more volatile, more rough in their nature, or are they just the regular human beings?
I mean, of course, it depends case to case. There are regular human beings. I've had and sat my lunch with them. I've had and sat my chai with them. So they're very regular human beings. Of course, they've never, they've never seen that sympathy and empathy, which usually they get used to get with me over a cup of chai or something. But of course, there are the side of the criminals also who are technically very psychotic, violent, and they are they are very hardcore criminals. So they are both. There are both, I would say.
Okay, so so that means it depends which side might be triggered when.
Sorry, I didn't get the
Depending on the
question.
situation. I'm saying so it depends. Depending on the situation, any side of theirs could be triggered. So maybe with you, they might be feeling very comfortable. But then,
Yes, yes.
they come across this situation in which they had to do this crime and then they are volatile again or something like that.
Yeah, so basically what happens, where when you visit prison, there are few criminals who are not allowed to interact because, of course, the officers know better. They might just attack you or they might just be, because they're always looking for a chance, to move out. Who
Yeah.
wants to be in a prison? And I also
Yeah.
tell you one thing, Avantika, prison is not a very right space to reform you. So if you're locked in a one room and you are disciplined 24/7, line में चलो, line में बैठो, bathroom में जाओ, bathroom से निकलो. So you're over disciplining in one small room that 10 people are lying down. You're not going to reform yourself. You're only going to deteriorate mentally and emotionally. And you might become more revengeful. There's more vengeance, कि क्या ही कर लेंगे अब मैं बताऊंगा types. These things also happen. But yeah, the things are changing with prison system also. There are open jails. There are jails who are really doing really good. Like Tihar jail is really good. Chandigarh jail is one of the best prisons I've been. Their prisoners are doing kirtan. They're painting walls. They're doing murals. They're reading books. So it really depends on the officer, the jailer also, that what kind of environment are you giving to those prisoners to be, are you giving them space to reform or are you giving them space to go mentally more psychotic in that space?
I had read one book which is written by the journalist Chigna Hora, I think,
Yeah.
Bakula Jail. And Baikula jail, and then she has written that how few people used to prefer coming to jail because that is how they are going to feed themselves. At least they know
Yes, yes,
that
yes,
yeah, we are
that's
going to
true.
find food.
That's true. So this, I'll tell you what happens in winters. In winters, they do small crimes so that they come to the prison. Because actually when you come to the prison, you get free food, free blanket, and a roof to stay. If you're outside, you do not have food, you are dying in cold without a blanket, you don't have shelter. So prison gives you that shelter within a roti, kapda or makan. You get
So
all
that
three.
also happens.
Yeah, that also happens.
Yeah.
So prison
So,
becomes sort of safe space for small criminals in that winters and all those times. They
so,
intentionally commit crime and come.
so these are petty thefts. Basically, they would
Right.
do it and they would secure themselves and
Yeah.
then move out.
वो मूव आउट होने में यू नो द जस्ट क्रिमिनल जस्टिस सिस्टम इन आवर कंट्री वो 2-3 महीने भी और 1 साल भी लग जाते हैं टू मूव आउट सो तब
Move
तक
out.
विंटर्स
Yeah.
आर ओवर
Yes, and also somewhere it was mentioned that people, especially a lot of foreigners are also coming here to do various kind of things. So they basically network also because in the jail they are able to meet the similar kind of people.
Okay, that's new
Yeah,
for me.
so they at least get to know about each other's existence, which they might not know otherwise, might not get to know otherwise. And also, now coming to the last point, uh, you have also taken suicide prevention workshops. Humanizing Lives has conducted suicide prevention workshops. So,
Yes.
would you like to explain or tell us a little bit about it?
Yes. So, suicide in prison is very common because there are a lot of under trials also who've actually not done the crime, but they are inside the prison for like years and years because the cases are getting delayed. They don't have a proper legal aid. They don't have that finances to go out on the bail or to give that security. There are people who are actually done the crime and now they are in guilt. कि वो उस वक्त हो गया. And there are people who just can't sustain the environment of prison. That so there are and they just find chances to commit suicide and there are also a lot of people when you come to the prison your bodies are scanned your disease are scanned you are scanned कि तुम कहीं blades लेके नहीं आ रहे syringe लेके नहीं आ रहे but we don't have that protocol of scanning the mental health of a person so there's a lot of people entering the prison with acute depression acute bipolar, acute schizophrenia. There's a lot of mental health disease people are entering the prison. But they're treated the same way, same discipline, same regime, same regimented days, and which is not very conducive for them. The environment is not very conducive for them. So the last resort is कि मैं मर जाऊँ मैं चला जाऊँ कुछ हो जाए मुझे and they keep trying so that's what we take a workshop with our prison officers basically that if you see certain signs in the prisoners suicide prevention in terms of there's different signs which you like see कि अभी mentally unstable हो रहा है या अच्छा नहीं लग रहा है or there is something going on or the prisoner is trying to seclude himself for a long time or is becoming lonely or there's something going on or he's trying to prepare to be suicidal so there are signs to it also too much of addiction so we tell the prison officers, jailers around the state that if you see certain signs, how you have to behave or how you have to handle that situation. Or if somebody is going to commit suicide and you caught them during that time, how you have to handle that person during because you can't be all the time disciplining and beating and thrashing it. So there has to be a certain conducive positive environment to pull them back from that rat hole. So this is what we talk to our prison officers and train them that what are the signs you should have to look into to help them out, come out of that zone of suicidal zone. And it's something very, very common in prisons.
And have you also come across people who might not be criminals, but they are just suicidal?
I mean, I don't know if they're criminal or not because they're in the prison unless proved. But yeah, lot of them are suicidal. A lot of them. The environment is like that.
Yeah, because even regular people who are looking fine and they are, running, going around with their regular life. Maybe people can say that they are striving, thriving, surviving, but
Yeah,
whatever. They are part
yes,
of the
yes, yes.
regular crowd and still they could be suicidal.
Yeah, of course. Did you ever imagine Sushant Singh Rajput will commit a suicide, like a big actor like him? There are so many corporates you see that, they're doing so well and next day you see a suicidal note. So you really can't predict. But you just have to be there. You can do your best. If you see your friends being little sad, if you see your friends being little cut off from you, just send hi, what's up, how are you? I just thought of checking on you. Hope you're doing well. Let me know if you want me to be there, if you want to talk to me. I mean, this you can do your best. This is how
Yeah.
you can do your best.
Basically, human angle, human touch, human consideration does help. If someone is
Yeah,
reaching out, that
of
really
course,
helps.
of course, of course. Maybe somebody is very suicidal or so like, I don't want to survive, I don't want to do this, and you just ring the bell,
Uh,
and you
and
reach.
their mind can totally change.
Hey, they get distracted. जो पूरी thought आ रहा था वो thought ही खत्म हो जाता है, and then he's okay or she's okay for next 3 4 months.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great. Good to hear. Ekta, this was a very fruitful, it gave a lot of insights to me, very insightful conversation. And I think let's end it on this note only. Unless
Thanks,
you want to add
Avantika.
something. Unless you
So
want to
that's
add
all.
something.
That's all. Thank you so much. And I just want you to tell people that you just need to take care of your emotions and your mental health, just how you take care of your skin and your body. And that's all. If we can spend so much on skincare, on gym membership, let's spend something on our mental health because that's what helps you be sane in your relationship, in your professional life, or every space of your life. That's all.
Sure. I'm sure
Thank you.
our audience would take a note of that. So, thanks a lot, Ekta. And well, that's it for today. So, if you found today's insights valuable, please like, share, and subscribe to stay connected for more thought provoking content. Your thoughts and feedback are always welcome. Drop a comment below and let's keep the conversation going. So, until next